Well, you could get with this, so you could get with that. Or you could get with this, so you could get with that. Or you could get with this, so you could get with that. I think you'll get with this, for this is where it's at. Hi, this is Lisa from LisaRobbinYoung.com, back with another live edition of Creative Freedom, your dose of education and inspiration to help creative entrepreneurs like you build a noble empire, live an inspired life, own your dreams without selling your soul. And today, I want to talk about how to make better, more confident decisions in your life and in your business. I remember when I was a kid, the game of life, and you'd spin the spinner, and there were different directions that you could take. Well, there was a commercial, and the guy is sitting there with his little car, with his little dude, and they're going, decisions, 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 decisions. So every time I think about having a tough decision to make, that commercial comes into my brain. Oh, decisions, decisions. And we make thousands of decisions every day. And decision fatigue is real. It is very deciding what I was going to wear today for this episode. Very real choices that we have to make. And sometimes we obsess over what we wear more than some of the really important decisions in our lives. And in our businesses. And other times we go into analysis paralysis and we get stuck and we can't move forward and we freak out and things don't get done. And then the choice is made for us by default. So one of the things that really caught me was, and I'm looking for it because I know it's here somewhere, my $5 million plan that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that was in it that was something that I used that I didn't even realize I was using, because obviously the plan was in a box, was these filter questions that I had created for myself that helped me in the 5 intervening years continue to make choices that supported the person I was trying to become, even when I didn't have the plan anywhere in front of me. And a lot of people always say, Lisa, how do you get so much done? How do you move forward and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I always take the opportunities that are coming at me and I compare them to this set of guiding questions, these filter questions that help me make decisions with less stress, less fatigue, and more ease around the choices that I'm making, even when they're tough decisions. The reason that the $5 million plan got thrown in a box was because it stopped working. And I put it aside because I was stuck and I didn't know how to fix it. And I didn't even think I could fix it. I'm like, it's just never going to work. And I hucked it, right? And that's not what I'm doing now. But the reality is, if I want to go back to those key elements that got me moving forward in the first place, this is how it's done. Those questions did stick around, even though I didn't stick with them, and I know they're here. There they are. I'm like, I do not let this $5 million plan out of my hands for very far. So right in the beginning of the book, page 2, here are the questions for my filter, and so that's what we're going to talk about today: is how do you build your own filter questions? How do you set up the guiding principles that are going to make decision-making, especially on the tough stuff, easier for you? What are filter questions? Because that's a fair question about questions. These are the guiding questions based on my principles and my non-negotiables. They're rooted in who you are. Let me say that again. Who you are. Let me put the emphasis in the right place. And what really matters to you. Because that's a big thing that we get stuck on. And I'll talk more about that. It's designed to help you make key decisions for opportunities, challenges, etc. more easily. Doesn't mean they won't be tough decisions to make, because sometimes you're still going to have competing desires. But these filter questions help clear the clutter so that you're really only dealing with the stuff that maybe you hadn't considered before that puts a new facet on things. And it works when you work it. Okay, so by the time we're done here today, you're going to develop a solid first draft, if you follow along, but don't expect perfection right out of the gate. And I want to set your mind at ease on that, because this is a living, breathing document that you're going to be creating, and it's designed to change with you as the person who you are and who you are becoming changes as well. Linears are going to feel compelled to stick to the rules and follow the guidelines and don't deviate. I'm going to set this thing and it's going to be put in stone, and that's the way it's going to be for the rest of forever. That's not going to serve you well. Chaotics are going to have the other problem of wanting to bend the rules. Well, in this case, I'm going to not. And so I'm also going to share with you when the time is right to make the changes, to edit this living, breathing document, because you can't change it all the time. You can't be willy-nilly. I mean, I wrote these questions down, put this in a box for 5 years, and I was still following these subconsciously. That's how much a part of you they are. Okay? This just puts it down on paper and puts it out into the world so that you have a visual reference for what your being already knows to be true about you. So we start with, in fact, I'll show you my guiding questions. My guiding questions are based on my essential why, and that's the thing we're going to walk through today. My essential why, the filter, is that everything I do is to use my voice to help others, at this time it said creative entrepreneurs, share their true voice with their right audience so that they can build a noble empire. And I include myself in those creative entrepreneurs. Okay, so the questions that I built for my filter were based on that premise. This is why I do everything that I do. So if a challenge or an opportunity comes to me, the first question is, does it allow me to use my voice? If I'm not going to get a chance to be heard in this, I'm probably going to say no right off the bat, unless I'm being forced into it. And then, well, does it help creative entrepreneurs share their true voice? Does this connect a true voice to a right audience, meaning my voice to my right audience or their voice to their right audience? Does this help creative entrepreneurs build a noble empire? If it doesn't do those things, I'm probably going to say no, because it's not a good fit. It's just not a good fit for who I am and what I'm trying to be about in the world. Okay, so those are my guiding questions that I've used for the last 5 years subconsciously, because that's how much a part of me they are. Hi, Liz, good to see you. So we're going to start with walking through this essential why process so that you can get to your filter questions. And this is a mini version of the full-blown exercise that we're going to do at the Creative Freedom Live workshop that I'm teaching in Nashville in October. So we start with the very first question. What really matters to you? Look at all those underlines. This is important. What really matters to you? When nobody else is looking or seems to care, what really matters to you? Who, what really matters to you? Where do you prefer, that's an important word, where do you prefer to invest you? Your time, your energy, your money, your resources, your attention. If you've got the magic paintbrush, I do this with my clients all the time. Here, take the magic paintbrush. It's in your hot little hand. Take it. Thank you. Okay, you got it. You now have the magic paintbrush. You can make this look however you want. There's no judgment. You have all the money you need, etc. Where are you going to invest yourself? Your time, your energy, your money. That's what really matters to you. When nobody else is looking, what really matters to you. And start to get that out of your head and document it. Is it time with your family? Is it time with other loved ones? Is it time for just you? I've come to appreciate the quiet that I have when there's nobody else in my home. When I first moved here, the silence was nerve-wracking. After having 2 boys back in my house all summer, I'm like, oh, I long for the quiet of having an empty house. And that is something that kind of motivates me now. It's like, where will I have that quiet time to take care of me and listen to me? How do I make that time in my day? Because that's important to me. What really matters to you? Now, here's the tricky part. Why? Why does that matter to you? Why are all the things that you've just taken out of your head so important that you felt compelled to write them down or document them, however you're documenting them? Why? And if you start saying things like, well, because my mom, because my kid, because my boss, I would challenge you to dig a little deeper and ask again, why? So this is a really tricky thing that direct sellers do a lot. It's called finding your why. And I know Simon Sinek's got a whole book called Start With Why. And I think he missed the boat a little bit. I think he makes the assumption that you already know who you are in order to find your why. And I think that especially now, that's not accurate. So many of us have no idea who we really are because we don't want to own what really matters to us. Hi, Karen. Hi, Linda. Nice to have you with me here today. So you have to strip away all of the shoulds and the external expectations and all of the things that have been foisted on you to get you to want those things, to get those things to matter to you. Well, I love my husband, and so what my husband wants matters to me. Yeah, okay, but why does that matter to you? Why does what he wants matter to you? So you have to dig a little deeper to get to what the real why is. And that's why I call it the essential why. Linda says, sometimes finding out your why leads to who you really are. Yes, that's very true. It's kind of this, it's a virtuous cycle. I won't call it a vicious cycle. It's a virtuous cycle because a lot of times we're peeling back layers and we're getting deeper. There's a process in the automotive industry called the 5 why. And 5 is really an arbitrary number, but you pinpoint a problem and you ask, why is that a problem? Or why is it not functioning properly? And then you get an answer and you go, well, why is that happening? And then you get an answer. Well, why is that happening? And you get an answer and you keep asking why until you get to the root cause. So if what your husband wants is important to you, why is that important to you? Well, maybe it's important to you because you really believe in the power of supporting your spouse. Okay. Or maybe it's important to you because that's the way you were raised and you were told that whatever your spouse wants is supposed to be important to you. Okay, now you have to look at what do you really believe there? Is that really true for you? Or are you just bringing old baggage and enculturation with you into your current moment? You have to be clear with what's really, that's why there's so many underlines, what's really, 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 really important to you. Because I guarantee you, when you dig down deep enough to your essential why, everything you do or don't do is predicated on why, on that essential why, what really, really matters to you. And that's how you, as Linda so keenly pointed out, uncover who you really are. Who you really are is part of what's important to you. What's important to you is part of who you are. And as creative entrepreneurs, our business is often an extension of who we are. It's not us. We are not our business, and our business is not us. But our business is an extension of us. It's a piece of us on display. It's our gifts that we're sharing with the world. So that's a piece of us that goes out to all these people. But it's not all of us. It's not the sum total of our essence of who we are-ness. No, it's a facet. It's a piece. It's an extension of who we are. So we have to really get clear on what really matters to you and why that's so important to you. For me, one of the big drivers of everything I do is about this sense of freedom, being able to use my voice, knowing that I'm seen and I'm heard and I'm understood. That's all about being free to be myself, creative expression, which is one of the reasons why my show is called Creative Freedom. Freedom is at the core of a lot of things that I'm about in the world. Okay, so why are those things important to you? That's going to give you a glimpse into what I call the non-negotiables. Okay, these non-negotiables form the foundation of why you choose to do or not do everything in your life, including the work that you do. For me, one of the non-negotiables is I have to have this sense of freedom. I have to have a voice that is heard and valued. That's important to me. That is freedom to me. To know that I can show up and say what's important to me, say what's on my mind, and know that it was heard, I was seen, and it was understood. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. You can disagree with it. As long as I feel on some level you've heard what I've said, I'm okay with that. I am. Might sting a little if you're someone really close to me and you totally are like, no. But I can respect the difference of opinion if I really feel like I've been heard. And Linda says freedom's a big one for her too. Yeah. So I want to use my voice to do good in the world. I want it to be heard. So I don't want to be silenced. I'm going to open my mouth and I'm going to speak up a lot. Sometimes when I probably should have kept my mouth shut, because that's important to me. So when I found myself in a situation where my voice was being discounted, being discredited, being summarily dismissed, I had to make a really tough decision. And that's not true. The decision itself was easy because I already knew in my bones, this doesn't allow me to share my voice. This doesn't allow me to help other people. I can't stay in a situation like this, all right? The process of divorcing was hard because the decision was rooted in my desire, my need to have a voice that's valued, to have that opportunity to be heard and use my voice for good. I'm not just talking to talk out my cheeks, right? I'm using my voice as a means of service and assistance and helpfulness and love. And to not have that opportunity goes against, that's my non-negotiable. Girl, gotta talk. Sorry, these lips are gonna move. That's just how it goes, right? So when I'm in a situation where I can't do those things, it's easy to make the decision, oh, girl's out. Gotta go, see you later. The challenge came that making the decision to divorce tested other elements of my filter questions, okay? And that's why we have to prioritize our filter questions, okay? That's why we have to prioritize them. So when competing opportunities come up, you're gonna know, okay, well, these are the things that are important to me, but if I have to choose, this one is, if I have to let go of 3, this is the one I'm keeping, right? So that helps us create the path forward so that we can make those more confident decisions. And that's why we don't prioritize in the heat of the moment. We pre-prioritize those filter questions. So then the next thing that you're going to do, okay, as you've taken some of those statements about this is why it's important to me, because I value freedom, because I value independence, because I value wealth, because I value prestige, because I value family, like whatever those things are that are the non-negotiables for you, because I don't want to work with jerks. Whatever your non-negotiables are, now you need to turn those into questions. So just pick 1 or 2, and the questions, here, let me pull that up there, turn these statements into questions, right? And the question, the basic question is, does this challenge or opportunity? I like to say opportunity because really every challenge is an opportunity. So let's look on the bright side. Every challenge is an opportunity, right? Does this opportunity allow me to be, do, have, or experience blank, that thing that's my non-negotiable? So if you don't want to work with jerks, does this challenge or opportunity allow me to have the experience of not working with jerks, or allow me to have the experience of working in a jerk-free zone? Okay, so you just take the statement and flip it into a question. That's all you have to do, all right? You have to create questions that align with your essential why. Okay, you're going through, why do these things matter? Freedom's a big one for me. So if I'm creating a bunch of questions that don't address freedom, I'm gonna feel like it's incomplete, like it doesn't quite mesh up with what I'm like. It's almost there, and you know that feeling of it feels like it's close, but I'm not not quite there yet, you're still not in alignment with that essential why. If you can look at those questions and find ways to skirt them, you have not hit the why yet. You've not gone deep enough, and you've got to keep asking until you get deeper. Why does this really matter? Well, it matters to me because if I don't have a sense of freedom, I don't feel like I can adequately share my love with the world. Why does that matter to me? Sharing my love with the world is the way that I receive love. It's a way that I receive love. And I guarantee you, when you really get down to the core of your why, you'll start to tear up a little bit. You might even tear up a whole lot. The first few times I did this, it was like, it was ugly cry city. It was not, it was not pleasant at all. Now I can get there and, I just get a little damp and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm there. I'm good. Don't be surprised if you hit tears, because your essential why is the most tender piece of you that rarely sees the light of day. It's the thing that you protect the most inside you, because you don't want somebody to trample on it, because that is the core of every motivation that you make. It's very precious to you. And so when you start to poke at it, of course you're going to be like, I'm getting verklempt here. To work amongst yourselves. You're going to do that. So if you're feeling like, oh, do, you're not there yet. You got to dig deeper. So as you're turning these questions into statements and you feel like, okay, I've got a good handle on, these are my non-negotiables. And now I'm clear that, is this going to allow me to be, do, or have, or experience this thing that's important to me, this aspect. I won't call it a thing because sometimes it's not a thing. Okay. Then you have to prioritize them in advance. And that's so critical. Okay. You got to look at your deal breakers. And before you have the heated, intense moment of drama, dun, 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 the crucial key decision-making turning point of your life, you don't want to be there going, I can't decide, because that's when you get stuck in analysis paralysis. That's when you get frozen in fear of making the wrong decision or a bad decision. The truth of the matter is you've already decided. It's done. We decide emotionally and then we justify logically. There's plenty of research to back that up. So when I have someone looking at prioritizing, because it's really easy, again, to not go deep enough on this and make a summary decision on priority based on what looks good or what it should be. But then in the heat of the moment, you'll make a completely different decision. Should I eat that brownie? I want to lose 100 pounds. Should I eat that brownie? I want to lose 100 pounds. Should I eat that brownie? I want to lose 100 pounds. I'm eating that brownie because I am so stressed out and I am so upset and there's nothing in the house else that I can even eat. So I need to self-soothe and I'm going to eat that brownie. Now, I already pre-prioritized emotionally that self-soothing with food was more important than honoring the commitment to myself to lose 100 pounds. I never articulated that out loud, but that's the reality when I turn to emotional eating. In that moment, I decided that taking care of my anxiety and my fear and my emotional disruptions by consuming carbohydrates was more important than honoring the commitment I made to myself to lose 100 pounds. Had I pre-prioritized and said, I know there will be times when I am faced with the horrible, horrible decision of emotional eating to soothe myself in the moment when there feels like there's no other choice, or honoring my commitment to lose 100 pounds, and I'm going to choose to be the person who honors the commitment. Had I done that in advance, I probably either wouldn't have eaten that brownie, or I would have done a lot more internal fighting with myself before I got that far. So I always say, imagine a circumstance when you're prioritizing where this thing you're trying to prioritize couldn't possibly matter. Like in the grand scheme of the world, if it came down to eat the brownie or lose the 100 pounds, which one, like in the worst case scenario, which one would you choose? And I always say, think in extremes. Pick the most oddball, freakish, out of the world scenario. Which choice would be the better choice in that moment? Because those freakish scenarios happen more often than you might think. Mama Cass Elliot choked on a sandwich. Freak. You wouldn't expect that would ever happen in your lifetime. But if you were thinking in that extreme, maybe she wouldn't have picked the sandwich. Who knows? Maybe she would have. But when you train your brain to see the scenario differently, most of us don't even want to think about the extreme scenario because it's like, oh no, that's never going to happen, so why worry about it? I'm not saying freak out about it, obsess over it. I'm saying put yourself there for a moment so that you have a plan. Nobody wants to get cancer. Nobody wants to get a divorce. Nobody wants to have unfortunate circumstances come up on their horizon, but they do. And if you've pre-prioritized, this is my non-negotiable, numero uno. I don't care what else happens in the world, this has got to stay true. Then it becomes so much easier when the other things start to fall apart to know, okay, well, I'm still driving toward this. Yep, I may have to let go of some of the other things temporarily, but this is the one I will not compromise on. And there might be more than one for you. But when you've got clarity on what the order of importance is, it's so much easier to make the really tough decisions. So much easier. So you started prioritizing, okay? Now this is where I give you some wiggle room. Because the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a gut check. And again, you're looking for moments where you're shoulding on yourself. I should say that losing 100 pounds is more important. So that's going to be my number one non-negotiable. You see the energy here? I should say that. The society tells me that's what I need to do. That's the important thing. And I can talk myself into it. Yeah, but when the heat of the moment comes, I am going to buckle under the should because that's not my decision. That's somebody else's decision that I've co-opted for myself. And when things get hard, we fall back to what's true for us, not what other people have tried to make true for us. And believe me, I'm saying all of this because I need to hear it as much as you do. I still fall off the wagon. I still make choices that aren't great. I still co-opt other people's decisions from time to time. I've been an enabler more times than I care to count in my life. I am far from perfect in all of this, which is all the more reason why we need to do this. We need to be more focused on getting clear on what's really important to us and being able to own that and stand in that. I had a client this week say something about how it would be really great if one of her friends could just own the truth of what really matters to her. And I was listening to her talk and I'm like, hey! And then she said, and I recognized that that's true for me too. And I'm like, yes, my work here is done. Because ultimately we can't control anybody else around us. We like to think we can, but the reality is this is all we have domain over, and we don't even always have domain over it all the time. Because there's so much going on all the time inside ourselves as well as outside of ourselves that it's easy to just surrender to the whims and wills of the world and go wherever the wind takes you. But when we can focus on what really matters and we can prioritize what's important to us, then we can move forward with more confidence. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but we can be more confident that we are owning the truth of what's important to us. So then here's your second out. Sleep on it. No, seriously, sleep on it. Like you've made the list of questions. Now you're going to slide it under your pillow. You're going to crawl into bed with it under your pillow and you're going to sleep there. Now, this is a trick that I taught my music students when I was teaching voice piano to kids. After they had rehearsed it. Okay, you can't just stick a textbook under your pillow and learn through osmosis, right? You can't do that. If you've already studied the material, you can. And here's why it works. It's the craziest thing, but it works. Because you've already worked on the material and you now slide it under your pillow and you know it's there when you lay down on it, your brain works on it in your sleep. What was that passage I needed to remember? What was that thing I needed to work out? And so I would tell my students, put your music under your pillow before you go to bed at night. And they'd look at me like, say what? Oh no, this works. They'd come back the next week having worked through the problems that had snagged them. Their music was far better than it was the week before, whether or not they had done any rehearsing between lessons. And some of them didn't. You know who you are. But because they slept on it, their subconscious was working on it. Why is that there? Oh, because of that thing. And what do I need to work on? Oh, that thing. So when you slide your questions under your pillow, you have the opportunity to let your subconscious mind do the processing. Does this still feel right? Is there something else I still need to edit out of this? Did I get something wrong here? Is it close but not quite? Like, what do I still need to work on? And all that happens while you are sleeping. You're welcome. You are so welcome. So you've done the gut check. You slept on it. Now you get to do your first round of revisions. Review and revise. Okay? Get them to where you're comfortable with them. And you're like, yep, these are my non-negotiables. This is my list of filter questions. This is what I'm going to run with indefinitely. Indefinitely. Not and change them in 30 days. Not and re-examine them in 6 months. Indefinitely. Okay? Now, I said this is a living, breathing document. It does change, but it doesn't change arbitrarily because you don't change arbitrarily. So when is it time to make revisions to your list of filter questions, to your non-negotiables? Generally, when something huge happens in your life that you weren't prepared for, that's a big one. But here's the caveat to that. Don't go changing the rules in the heat of the moment. Don't go changing the rules in the heat of the moment because oftentimes, especially if you're chaotic, you're making that change on a situational basis rather than this is who I am now and I would choose this differently in the future regularly. And it's hard to make that determination in the heat of the moment. So I encourage you to make sure it's not situational and make sure that the decision you're making, if you're making the choice to change, is really about, is this who you want to be? Is this the kind of person you want to become? Because that's the big thing. And so here's the question, and I put this on Instagram today. If the only thing you were ever remembered for was this one decision that you're about to make, would you still make this choice in that way? Would you still choose this way? If the only thing you were ever remembered for was this one thing, and the way you chose on this one thing, would you still choose this way? If so, then it's probably time to realign your questions. If not, don't mess with your questions. Remember who you're trying to become. Remember who you already are. Remember what really matters to you, because you're the only person you have any purview over. You're the only one. So the only thing you were remembered for was this choice. Would you make it? And like Black Sheep says, the choice is yours. You could choose this, or you could choose that, or you could choose this, or you could choose that. Choose this. Because this is where it's at. Meaning you. Choose you. Choose you first, because it's really the only choice you can make. So, now it's over to you, my friend. What is one of your non-negotiables? One of your guiding questions. If you've been working through this here, put one in the comments and let me know you're still here with me, paying attention and listening. Okay, what are the non-negotiables? What's one of your guiding questions? What's the essential why that motivates you? What's the reason that you do or don't do all of the things that you're about in the world? You know, I know Dr. Liz, one of the things that she says is great sex can change the world. And she really believes that in her bones. And so a lot of what she does is around helping people have those deeper relationships so that they can get to that stage where they're having great sex in whatever form turns them on. If that's her essential why, great. If it's not, maybe she's digging deeper than that, okay? But if you've got one, feel free to put it in the comments. As I said, this is a miniature version of what we're gonna do. Like we tried to do this in like 30 minutes at Creative Freedom Live this fall. And so if that's something that you're interested in, you can go to creativefreedomlive.com, and learn more about the event and what we're working on there. Basically, you're going to be building out your growth map for your business. And that begins by getting clear on who you are and what really matters to you. You can't build a business, especially as a creative entrepreneur, you can't build a business that doesn't work for who you are, because then you're out of integrity, you're out of alignment, you're a mess. And you're building something that doesn't even fill you up. And that's when they get burned out, exhausted, frustrated, they walk away, they bail, they sell it, they let it crash and burn because they're tired of it. Okay? That doesn't have to happen to you. Does not have to happen to you. Linda says, self-expression is a human need. Yes, absolutely. Self-expression is a human need. And if everything that you're doing, Linda, from the great art that you're making to the services that you provide to your clients, is to help them feel more self-expressed, that's a powerful reason to get up in the morning and do the things that you do. And so one of your guiding questions might be, does this opportunity or challenge allow me to be self-expressed, or allow me to facilitate self-expression in others? And if the answer is yes, then you can make an affirmative choice. And if the answer is no, then you can say, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me right now. Hi, Judith. I'm so glad you're here. I'm sorry, we're just about done though. So we're kind of wrapping up the end here. But be sure to catch the replay, because there's lots of good stuff here that's going to help you formulate the filter questions that are going to help you make better decisions in your life and in your work. So that's going to wrap it up. If you liked this episode, please share the love. You would do my heart good. Spread the word to your friends and your colleagues about creative freedom. Give us a like or a share to show you care. Next week, we are going to be talking about the $64,000 question. Do you have a real business, or do you have an expensive hobby? And the answer might surprise you, because you might be saying, oh, hey, I'm bringing in money. Of course I have a business. Wrong answer. And I'll explain more next week. But until then, for more inspiring songs, stories, and resources to help you own your dreams without selling your soul, come check us out over at lisarobinyoung.com, and I will be glad to see you there.